Hi YouTube friends! In searching for OBS alternatives, the first reaction is free options like Meld Studio. But in the comments, I've been seeing users talk about other options too. XSplit being one of them. Now you can use XSplit with very few restrictions for free, which I didn't know before I checked it out. I also didn't realize how polished and comprehensive it was as a potential OBS alternative. So today I'm going to introduce you to XSplit, a live streaming and recording software that is much more than what I expected. We've got a lot to get into, so you know what? Let's get to it! Now I'm guessing a lot of viewers are surprised that I would cover a software for live streaming that's not free when OBS is free and kind of the standard. OBS has always been the main focus of this channel because it's a perfect entry point for anyone getting into content creation, whether it's recorded or live streamed. However, it's always been rock solid from a reliability standpoint, and that makes it easy to recommend. Lately, that just hasn't been the case, which has prompted this look for potential alternatives. XSplit admittedly won't be for everyone. However, it will be for a lot more people than I would have expected when I first decided to take a look at it. And I think you're going to see what I mean by the end. Let's dig in and I'll show you how XSplit works. And by the way, if you want to check it out for yourself, there is a link in the description down below. Alright, so here we are, and we are going to go with the broadcaster here, and we just click here. Automatically goes up into our downloads, and there it is. So we can just double click it, and then next, and it asks you where you want to put it. That's fine, just click next. Whether you want a desktop shortcut and start menu programs folder. I don't want it in my start menu because that means it starts up when your computer does. No thanks. Whether you want to add admin to your shortcuts, which is perfectly fine, and then install. And this little shield means it's gonna use administrative profile to actually install it. So what's gonna happen immediately is you're gonna see a black screen here, and then you just have to click yes, and there we go. And we can launch the XSplit broadcaster right from the end of the install if we just click finish. And of course they want your email address, or you can give it your Google or whatever. I'd personally rather do my email address, I guess. Then you just go to your email, get the code, paste it in here, and put your name in and continue. I'm gonna block. Alright, so you have to have that stupid box, you have to allow it. And we hit reload, and we're successful. So now we can go to the app and allow. And for now, we're just gonna continue to use the free version. And here's what we get. So when you first open XSplit, the first thing I noticed was how unbelievably different it is from just about any other application I've ever used for broadcasting. So up here in the top, we've got a drop down, which I assume is to select different places that you want to stream. In order to configure those, you press the stream button, and you have bunches of different selections here that you can log into so you can stream. You've got a record button. Right here, you have a resolution button where you can select different resolutions or add your own. Then you've got a frames per second button, which I think is pretty cool because it gives you 60. It even goes below the 30 frames per second threshold, which I really like. And you can add a custom frames per second up here as well. And in the center of this, you do have a screenshot, so you could just take a screenshot of whatever's on your screen. Over here, we got our layout wizard, and you got a button up here for single output mode, but you can put multi-mode on there. It's in beta right now. Light theme, dark theme, and snap to grid to turn on snapping assets to a grid that's on the screen. Here is your preview window right here. We'll get into what we've got here in a second. Listed at the top here, you've got scene 1. If we go all the way over here to the far right, we got already created scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and scene 4 are here already, and so you can just rename these right here if you want. Then we've got right here some transitional information, so you could set up transitions. We've got a microphone, a listening device, so headphones or something like that. Right here we could set up our transitions, transition override, that sort of stuff. And then over here we can select transitions, length of transitions. You can favorite a transition that you put in there, and right here you can open up your favorite transitions that you've already saved in the favorites right here. And then down here in this white box we have add sources. Really different looking compared to what we're used to. And then of course you've got your regular menu up here with file, broadcast, where you select your output, record with your record settings. Right here you've got play out with NDI source or virtual camera or projector, extensions, so you can import OBS scenes that you may already have. You can change audio up per scene, which I really like. Presentation packager, scene switcher, stinger creator. You can add an extension, which would be like a plugin in OBS, or remove extensions. Then we've got tools, which has audio effects, a mixer, transition manager, preview editor, layout wizard, the plugin store, and a list of your plugins. You could change up permissions, execute custom URLs, and settings. And then of course you've got help right here, which gives you access to manuals and a bunch of other stuff. And of course your upgrade button. So that's the general layout, and it's very, very different. I do like down here that it tells you what your frames per second are. It gives you information about how much CPU you're using and that sort of stuff. And then over here gives you some information about how your GPU is working as well, and then what kind of memory you've got going on right here. So we've got 828 megs being used by XSplit, which is kind of interesting considering this is just a completely empty stream. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get started with a layout. We'll select here, and what are we going to be doing? Game streaming? Are we going to solo stream, full split screen, windowed split screen, four-way split, or some sort of a duo presentation? I'm guessing that most of my live streaming audience is probably either going to be game streaming or solo streaming, or potentially somewhere in this realm where we're going to be adding a guest. So the easiest place to start is with game streaming. So you can see it provides you with a preview layout for layout sources, source 1, scale to fit. So we could select our first source, and so you go up here and select game, which will auto detect, or desktop, and we can see our sources right here. So what I'm going to do is go to the next one, which is a capture card, and we're just going to select my cam link, and boom, there it is. We could scale to fit or whatever we want to do. Our second source would obviously be our game, so we can auto detect this game, but you can also add a video file or a video network stream or a web page, image files, or Google Slides. In my case, I'm just going to go ahead and add a video file that's going to replicate our game for the moment, so we could take a look and see what this looks like. To do that, I just go down here and find my game asset thing here, and we're just going to add it like that, and boom. So now we've got that in there, and you can see if we had scale to fit, doesn't really do much. And then we've got our background right there. And you could put whatever you want. You can use a preset or custom image or something like that in your background. Let's just go ahead and use a preset background, and it'll let us select one from over here. Let's go ahead and select this one, and there we go. And so we can just finish. And now it's already basically created a scene for us here. Any one of these things, you can just hit the eyeball here. We can select any one of them, right click, and fit it to the screen, restore it to the default, lock the position, we can remove it. We can go into settings. Here it gives us video. If we go in here, it will give us direct access to the properties of our video device configuration, which is really kind of nice, so we can adjust everything. So we can take any one of these elements, move it anywhere we want on the screen. We can adjust the size. If we right click on our video, we could do the same thing. We can fit it to the screen, refresh, rename it, copy and paste it as a new source, go in here and take a look at the media, so we can pause it, play it. We can set it to start and end at different points. We can actually add cue points. So let's say we wanted to add a cue point right here. We could pause, resume it, or cut it at that specific cue point. The audio output listed here is system sound, but we can select stream only, play it once, or we can actually loop it and then select what we want it to do when it's finished. Now here it's set to play on scene enter, so every time we come into this scene, it's going to play. We could force it to play on source show, so we could actually have it so we don't see it. And when we bring it on, it will start playing. Force deinterlace, remember playback position, which I think is really nice. It means it's not going to restart at the beginning every time we leave this page and come back. And we can show the playback position as well, which is really nice. right there. It tells us what the playback position is. And right here, keep source in memory. So this has to do with this memory right here. If you want to limit the size of your stream or what your stream has loaded at any moment, you can remove that, which means that when you go to scene 2 or scene 3, it's not going to keep this video in memory. So let's go to scene 2, and right here we'll come and we're going to add a source. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and add a desktop, and we'll just bring it up here. So if we right click on that, we can show the mouse cursor when we're on that area, which you can see right there. And you can even show mouse clicks. So you could see it dims when I select it. We can go ahead and stretch this out. Now right now I don't have snapping on, so I'm going to put on snap to grid, and now we'll stop whenever it goes to any one of those spots. So now we've got our desktop in the back, and I'm going to go and add another source. This time we're going to go ahead and add a camera capture card. Again, we'll add my camera. I'm going to move it over here. And let's add a source, and we're going to go and add some text. You can put whatever you want, and you can select your font. Over here they have styles, so you can add a shadow or animation to your text, as in a scroll or a fade. You can add a shadow to that. In this case, let's go ahead and make our shadow black, and we'll add some distance to it. We'll change our angle. We'll add some blur. Now you can script your text with a bunch of different settings. Text before, text after, all kinds of really neat stuff there. So in this particular case, when we add the script, it's just adding the clock. We can load text from a local file. We can load text from a remote URL, an RSS feed, a video list, or a custom script. We can have our text size automatically, or we can change it to fixed and then just set it ourselves. Here you've got bold, italics, strike through, underline, and of course the usual text stuff right here of how you want it formatted. And we can change our font color. So let's make this a red, and we can add an outline and change how thick that outline is, just like that, and there we go. So now we've got a really nice simple text tool, and anytime you want, you can just right click on it. It'll bring you back in here and allow you to change it up really easily. So now when we go from scene 1 to scene 2, you can see we're just getting a cut, but we can go in here and we can change that. Let's try collapse, and we can go from scene 1 to scene 2 and give you an idea of how that works. You can see it's set for 700 milliseconds, but we can change the transition time right here. If we were to try clock, I'm pretty sure that's just going to wipe it like a clock. You've got fade, fade to black, fade to white, a fan. So all kinds of ones right here. Move left, move right, move left and right, move top, bottom. Basically, this is like swipe left, swipe right, top and bottom. And essentially what this does is it will wipe it to the left. Then we've got wave, zoom, then ease out, bounce, elastic. You can set your transition speed here. Load in a stinger transition, same as OBS. So you can add one or remove one right here. And then you've got Luma transitions, which are pretty much similar to the ones in OBS. You can load them from a source file here instead of them just being already loaded in. But you can add the source file, then you can add the transition name, and show advanced settings. Gives you a little more information about all of that right here. And you know, if you want to learn more about the full features of the transitions in XSplit, maybe let me know about it down in the comments. It's pretty comprehensive. It's very nicely done. Once you set them up, obviously you can select a transition and add it to your favorites, and then have a favorite transition list right here. So if we wanted to add zoom, we could favorite it right there. And then when we pull this down, you'll see that zoom at 700 milliseconds is in there. You can also set up transition overrides and use a transition manager. So you can see that loading and unloading scenes and sources and everything is very, very similar to how you would do it in OBS. And we can just select another scene, right? And then we'll go up to our layout wizard, and we'll just use this split full screen right here. And it just allows you to add a source. So in this case, we'll go with a camera capture on number 1, and we can use the scale to fit here, which means it'll put us like that. And then we can select another source on number 2. So we could add a video file or a stream, web page, pretty much anything we want. So let's just go with that video file once again, open. And once again, we can scale this to fit. So now we got a split screen all loaded up. Now this is a funny thing. I actually had this happen before when I was building a scene. So I don't know exactly why this happened, but when I went to exit and then I just brought it back up, now we have our scene loaded in there. So scene 1, scene 2, and scene 3. So the strange blank error has something to do with the layout wizard. Once you're done with it, you can just go out and come back in. It will fix the problem, but it is a thing that should be addressed. So now we've got 3 different scenes. We know how to set them up. So let's go up here. We're going to go into tools and settings, and we're just going to take a quick look at all of this stuff. So this will enable game sources so they're automatically picked up in a situation where you add a game. You can hide XSplit broadcaster from a display capture. This is really handy if you don't have multiple screens, because you can put it up and then you can bring your game up. And it doesn't matter if you have your XSplit screen over top. It's not going to broadcast to your live streaming guests. We can add or hide the control bar, enable the in-game HUD, which is pretty cool. That's going to basically be something that XSplit puts over top of there. That's going to show some of the information about your stream. It will copy a link to the clipboard when you start broadcasting, so you can send that out to social media, that sort of stuff. You can hide the viewer count on your stream status. Minimize XSplit broadcaster to tray, which means that if I were to go up here, instead of it just being listed down here in the background, it will come over here and just put it in the system tray. You've got a thumbnail preview setting and a screenshot capture, where you can select whether you want JPEG or BMP, and it will log system information. You can restore default values down here. When we go over here into audio, we can set up our system devices and our presentation sources. So where do we want our system sound to go? In this case, obviously we want it to go to our headphones. We can set a delay or a volume range on that. Our microphone right here, we can set that up by selecting it, and that's going to be set right here. So if we have a microphone that's mono, we can change it so it copies, your one track to a left track, right track, and your sample rate, which you can change right here as well. We can go in here and add noise suppression, noise gate, an equalizer, and a compressor down here, and VST plugins, which we can add, which can change voices and do all kinds of different stuff. We can use NVIDIA's noise removal right there. Pretty cool stuff. We can add a noise gate, which will give us the ability to adjust the threshold, the equalizer. I mean, all this stuff is pretty advanced, very cool. It's pretty awesome that you can just add it right out of the box. But like you did see before when I came up here, in order to set the audio preview, we have to upgrade our version. So you're going to run into that here and there, but it doesn't seem like it's anything that's necessary. So in other words, you don't need to add anything that costs money to actually do any of this. Now we can go over here to our presentation sources, and our audio preview. It's going to be the same kind of thing, and then your audio sample rate right here, and it will allow you to open the audio mixer right here, where you can set your volume and make sure it's exactly what you want. So it's using our default microphone and our default speakers. In this case, as you know, we set our default microphone correctly and we set our default speaker correctly, and then it's got stream audio only, which is only going to come up when you're live streaming. Just like OBS, you've got hotkeys where you can switch scenes, turn on scenes, turn off scenes. You can actually mute audio and all kinds of other really cool stuff. Right here you've got sharing, so you can authorize to upload videos to YouTube. If you wanted to have a video directly upload, let's say you streamed on Twitch, you can authorize it to upload to YouTube after whatever you're recording or however you want to work it. Then you've got advanced over here. Video processing mode, you can set this so that it uses a GPU or a CPU for video processing. A bunch of different settings in here. A GPU, so you can have it selected automatically or you can select one yourself. You can decide whether you want anti-aliasing. And you can enable developer mode or enhanced logging mode. And I don't really want to get too super big into the different advanced features, because the first thing we want to do is determine whether this is even something that you would want to try to use. Now, from what I understand, you can basically stream in 720 without any watermarks or anything, and there's very few features, as you've seen, that really annoy you or bring up anything that's blocked. But once you go to any kind of HD or anything like that, you're going to see right here, it's going to put the XSplit watermark on there, which you can only remove if you're using a paid version. You can literally test all of these features in 720 if you want to, without ever having to use the watermark. Overall, other than the one weird bug that I noticed when we're using the layout wizard, everything about XSplit seems to work pretty well. It gives you all the same or similar features that you would get in OBS, plus the ability to add plugins and stuff that we didn't really explore. You can have a transition manager and really the ability to build pretty comprehensive live streams. The other thing I love is if we right click on our camera, and just about any asset that you right click gives you different things, but we can adjust the color and contrast of our image, the position and transform, layout and crop of that image. We can go in here and we can automatically remove our background. But as you can see, once again, watermark. I'm sure if you go to remove the watermark, it's going to ask you to go ahead and pay for it. But it does exist. Right here, masks. I absolutely love this. So we can use a mask on our asset to change the shape or something like that. So if we wanted rounded edges, boom, we add the mask for rounded edges, oval, diamond. So they have a bunch of preset ones. We can change the color. We can also have a map created from a file, and we can add drop shadows and that sort of stuff. I really like masking. I think it just changes so much of what you can do on your streams. So I love the fact that it's included. Right here we have a source transition, which means that it can you can set up transitions to go from one source to another, and there is a preview over there. And obviously the source transition is also behind the paywall, kind of a bummer. And then here we've got different types of filters that we can add to sharpen or blur or smooth or cool or warm. There's all kinds of really cool stuff in here, as you can see, that you can do directly on your image through the filters. You can also put it in low power mode, which will take some of the stress off of your CPU. Maybe it moves it to the GPU. Basically suspends camera frame processing when the device is hidden or is not active on a scene. If you're using a scene without the camera, it's not going to process it. I think that's pretty cool, pretty smart. There are a lot of really cool features in XSplit that I like. Maybe we should take a quick look at the pricing. So you can get a lifetime deal, which I'm super pumped that they even add that, where you just pay one time, use it forever, never have to worry about it again. So that is $139. Pretty cool, to be honest. You can just pay for it for a year for $60, or you can rent it for every month for $15 if you just want to try it out. However, you can basically just try it out in 720 anyways, almost all the features. You get the multi-streaming and all the other stuff. It's just one fee. It's one time every year or every month. You decide. So this isn't for everyone, of course, but for anyone who's just sick and tired of the issues that they're running into with OBS and wants to have a platform that they're streaming on where there is customer support. So if there are issues, like the minor issue that we ran into with the layout wizard, we can let them know, and they pretty much will figure out how to fix it, or at least have an understanding of how to fix it, because, well, they're providing tech support. That is what you're paying for right here. I wouldn't go so far as to saying that $15 a month is a good deal. I don't think that $60 for a year is a bad deal, but I think that $140 for a lifetime license where you're going to get all the updates and all the support and everything else is reasonable for someone who does YouTube for a living or live streaming. Especially considering that they're not going to update something in XSplit that's just going to break it. And if they do, well, that gives you the opportunity to go ahead and ask the questions, to go to their support and get resolution to the problems that they may have caused with their updates. OBS is a free software. You don't have that right. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. You can go on their forums and talk about it and stuff, but it doesn't mean that they're ever going to fix it. They're not getting paid anything, so we have no right to expect that they're going to fix it. So whether or not this is a good deal really has to do with how new you are to live streaming and how sure you are about whether you're going to continue to do it in the future. For somebody like me, who makes his living off of YouTube and live streaming, this is just a business expense. It doesn't even matter. But for somebody who's new and just poking around, or maybe isn't monetized on any platforms yet, well, I can totally see how even $15.99 a month is a major expense. So maybe you want to try it out using the $7.20. Poke around, see if it's something that you can use. Now, if this simple walkthrough of the basic features intrigues you, I really do encourage you to click the link in the description down below. Check it out for yourself. Like I said, most of the stuff can be pretty much walked through and messed around with for free. And there is a lot more in there than I had time to show you in this brief introduction. Now, in the beginning of this video, I said XSplit was probably for more of my viewers than I would have expected. And the reason is the lifetime license and the pricing. I know a lot of my viewers are just starting out, and a free app like OBS is always going to feel more attractive, especially when you're just starting out. However, anyone who streams for even a short amount of time will get viewers who are going to support the channel with donations and other stuff. And once that starts to happen, if OBS is giving them issues, the lifetime license for XSplit is going to seem like almost nothing to solve the headaches that they can't seem to fix. Streaming and content creation takes hard work and a lot of time and dedication. The last thing anyone who does it wants to do is spend time dealing with issues they can't seem to solve that make the creation process more difficult. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think of XSplit down below in the comments. And do you want to see me dive deeper into what you can do with it and explore more of the tools and transitions? Well, I want to know about that too. And if you're always looking for tools, tips, and tricks to help make you a better live streamer or YouTuber, subscribe to the channel. My name is Michael Fire Jr. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.